Hi, folks. It's Paul Ramsey, and this is another episode of The Fat Hypnotist. I'm joined today by Nicholas Spohn, who is, I think, the best way I can describe Nicholas Spohn is the best personal development expert that you have not heard of yet. I'm so excited to have him here today. Nicholas is just an amazing guy, first of all, but what really makes him amazing to me is he's trained in hypnotism. He knows neurolinguistic programming. He's been to more personal development events already than most of us will ever go to in our lives. And as you'll see when the camera finally switches to him, he keeps a well-stocked library. He's well-read. He's just got a lot of great stuff going on. So he's going to be here today to talk to us about the Dickens process relative to this weight loss journey that I'm on. Are you ready, Nick?
I am absolutely ready, and thank you for the introduction, Paul. That was
oh, glad to have you here.
Generous.
Very good. So you and I was so excited to bring you back because we sort of had this conversation several months ago, but I wanted to come back to it again and you know, I think go a little deeper on it in some ways. Nick was, for those of you who weren't, Nick was a guest in my home, and we had an evening conversation where I was talking to him about my frustration with my weight, and being the awesome personal development expert that he is, he went right into that mode where he started asking me all the right questions. And at the time, I didn't really like those questions. And so I basically said, I don't want to talk about those questions right now. When I'm ready, I'll do my thing. And geez, that was like, what, I don't know, 6 months ago or something like that. And I'm heavier now than I was then. And, you know, it's that thing. But so for people who've never heard of the Dickens process before, let's start with that, because that's what you offered up that night as what you thought was a really helpful thing that I could do to change my own thoughts and limiting beliefs about my weight. So let's start with that. What actually is the Dickens process?
Well, I appreciate your vulnerability, because I think all of us, even as hypnotists, we all have our incongruencies, right? And so, you know, mine are just like hidden deep in my heart. And so, you know, to be vulnerable about it, I really appreciate that. The Dickens process, if you remember Charles Dickens, A Christmas Story, he has, you know, he talks about the characters in that are visited, you know, Scrooge is visited by 3 ghosts: past, present, and future. And what happens is often we get caught up in justifying a behavior or a habit by living in the past with it, by being or in the future, we say, oh, it's going to be different in the future, or it was this way in the past. And so it gives us a reason not to change our behavior. But in the movie, the ghosts take him through all 3 phases of his life, so he can see the pain that's associated with his behavior, and his nervous system links it up. So he can't escape and say, oh, in the past it was okay, in the present it's okay, in the future it's going to be okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I remember at the time when you talked to me about that, intellectually, I saw why that would be a powerful thing to go through. But emotionally, I was like, I'm frustrated enough about my weight. I've had enough pain about my weight. I don't need more pain from my weight. Like, why are you asking me to go through more pain? And yet, what I realized on reflection afterward, I was like, well, yeah, I have had a lot of pain, emotional pain related to my weight, but apparently I haven't had enough, because what we learn about human development, right, is when you really have enough, then you get your shit together and you'll change something, right?
Yeah, and so the idea is to stack it on so your nervous system, and this is my whole thing, is your nervous system sends a signal to your endocrine system. The endocrine system creates the feeling, right? It changes our hormones, changes our energy, if you're into that stuff. And so we go back in the past and we say, listen, you may have this vision of, you know, sugar and food helping you in the past, and it's your way to connect and feel safe. We're going to go show you all that pain and stack it on into your nervous system and into your endocrine system, so you feel that pain associated with sugar, and then come into the present and do it, and then go into the future and do it. If you don't change, how painful is it going to be? And then in all 3 of those time frames, you feel pain associated to that behavior, and your subconscious and your nervous system goes, oh, we got to change that behavior.
So Nick, come back for me, because again, I don't want to assume we have such a wide audience for this show, and I'm sure that there are some people who are watching it that are probably sort of taking for granted your use of the word stack. So talk a little bit more about what stacking is.
We're just going to increase the intensity of the emotion. So we change, our subconscious changes its programs because of emotional programming, right? You've probably linked up, if you smoke cigarettes, you probably linked up to smoking as like a way to connect with people, a way to relax. And so the emotions of that stick into your nervous system. For you, it might be food or sugar. There's all these different behaviors. And as we get associated with them emotionally, it becomes a habit. So we're going to go back in the past and we're just going to change the emotion of it. And then we're going to keep that emotion compounding into that feeling of discomfort throughout all time frames of your life.
Right. So folks, what Nick's talking about, so think about the sort of the visual representation of if you could hold a memory or an idea or a thought, and then you could take another memory or thought or idea and stack it, place it on top of it, right? And that's where Nick's talking about compounding. When practitioners stack these emotional states or experiences or memories, they're creating this really powerful compounding effect. And that's what really, to me, is so kind of cool to think about how the Dickens process works. Now, the part that I still struggle with, Nicholas, and this is what I want to talk about next, is that this is a painful process emotionally. Like, this is not a happy process. And so I guess one of the things I still sort of debate in my head is, if we think of all human behavior and all human development being basically driven by either loving energy or fearful energy, which is the way that I think about things, why is it that these kinds of processes are what we're using? Like, isn't there a way to do like the anti-Dickens, where somehow I just get loved into getting myself fixed?
So I mostly do that. Yes. And I love, like, when you can change people out of stress and into love-based emotions, their willpower, their ability to pass on foods or bad habits increases exponentially. The problem is pain is more associated with our survival. So we escape pain to survive, and our subconscious's number one job is to keep you alive.
Yeah.
So this is painful. I'm going to face rejection. Then if we just make you feel that in your body and like feel how uncomfortable that is, to have the rejection of that behavior, the health, diseases, all of these different problems with this behavior, he says, well, listen, this is going to lead to death. We want to keep him alive. We got to change that program.
Right. So this is an important part of this. I mean, and again, folks who are listening, I do this work with people too. And I struggle still after 15 years hypnotizing over 15,000 people. I still have times where I don't like going to the pain place to create change for people. But if you do your research, if you do the work in really read up and learn about human evolution and human development, what Nick's saying is totally true. Like, our brains are built to spend so much more energy avoiding risks and painful situations than going after pleasurable and happy situations, because it's all about, like Nick said, it's about survival. So this is where I'm like, and this is like I know this.
You know it. I know you know right? It. Yeah. Of course, we all know it. It's just like, of course, I should eat more salads, but there's pizza here. Like,
You've gone to so much stuff, and you've been around. I mean, you're at a point now, and you're still relatively early in your career, really. Like, you still have a fantastic career in the world of real estate, and you're transitioning to some extent into this personal development world. But you've been like, I just admire, and I love you so much for how much you work at this, and you've spent a lot of time. You've been around thousands of people already at this early point in your career. Like, what do you see, the stuff that you've seen and the stuff you've been a part of? What are like the major themes? Like, what do you think this all really boils down to? Like, all the bells and whistles and tricks and like techniques, right? But if you I'm a big fan of simplification. I think there's elegance and simplicity. Like, so if you simplify it, when you look at doing work with people, whether it's weight or smoking or whatever, like, what's your basic premise for how you approach this stuff?
So I like to include, a lot of the work I do with Sandra with the Reiki stuff, hypnosis, just understanding evolution and, how we interact with others. And it comes down to, like you said, love and fear and survival, right? And so what happens is we want to survive. And as humans, the way that we survive is by getting love. And so we create all of these programs because getting loved is the most emotional thing we ever go through. So if we don't get loved by our parents, we're going to die. And so the way we learn to get love as children creates a program within us. So for example, we're talking about weight. If your parents and your grandparents, they showed love by feeding you, now you have a program in your subconscious that's going to last the rest of your life because it's survival. Because getting that love is survival. And so I always tell people, my whole thing is getting people from needing love, from desiring others' love to survive, to becoming the source of love, to becoming internally so overflowing with love that it doesn't matter what anybody does, right? Being unconditional in it and using the emotions of that to create new programs.
That's smart. I'm like, I don't really have anything to add to that. All right, we'll just sit with that for a minute.
And when we're stressed out, this is what I realized. I probably told you my bear story when I had a bear visit my campground, and I freaked out, and I'm trying to meditate, and like nothing would change. And I realized when we're in fear, we go from our conscious mind operating our subconscious, then to our subconscious running our entire life. So the programs then take over your system. So you have a program that says, this is how we survive. And if you're stressed out, if you're fearful, if you're guilty, any of those fear-based emotions, your conscious mind like almost disconnects to be the observer, and those programs then run your life.
Right. Right. So let's say, just to get a little more, I want to kind of come back. Everything you said is awesome. I just want to refocus a little bit on the Dickens process. So I go through, right? And I look at my past and I look at my present and I look at my future. Is that it? Am I done? Or is there like some other step to sort of finishing and locking into whatever the new behavior set should be?
Yeah. So the important thing is for you to really like step into that painful discomfort, just, for the short amount of time, and to use your voice and your nervous system and your posture and your breath. And like, I always tell people, like when I want them to experience pain, to like breathe shallow, because that just taps them more into that fear and anxiety. And then we'll just keep linking that up. And then coming out of that, we want to give you a new future. And we want to say like, if you do change, this is what it is. We're going to make that feel so pleasurable, right? And as a hypnotist or a coach, you should know what fires up your clients.
Right.
So for you, I would say like, imagine how people are going to look at you and the healthy foods and how much energy you're going to have. And I would paint this amazing picture for you. And then I would pull it away from you for just a moment and say, now, if you didn't change, right, this awesome lifestyle, you go back to eating sugar. And I'm going to put you in that pain again. I'm going to say, now you decide. Now it's your decision. What are you going to pick? And then you consciously make a decision. You step forward into your new future. And your nervous system gets a break from that pain because you've let that system go. You let
right. And that contrast is really powerful, right? When people allow themselves to think that there's like nuances and grays, that's where things get like less actionable, right? But if you create this like, here's the black version, here's this white version, this is clear contrast, right? No gray in the middle, just real bold and real bold, And I can see the value of that. That's pretty cool.
So I had a client today who's a real estate investor, a real estate agent, and he was kind of stressed out and doubtful about some deals. And I go, all right, stand up, and had him stand off to the left in his doubtful spot. And I had him change his body language and his breathing and like focus on doubtful things. And then I said, all right, back to the middle, clear it. Now move to the right. And I said, now stand strong and know like with total confidence. And his physiology changed. And I was like, okay, so which one do you want to live in? He goes, oh, I want to live in this spot. Yeah. Like I just changed, his state that quickly.
Yeah.
Having him step into different spots as well. And that's what we do in the Dickens. And again, like the timeline is very important because how often are we dating someone and we're like, oh, they're going to change. It's going to be different in the future. And that's our excuse for suffering now. Right. But if we put it in all three time zones, we see pain linked up in every single time zone. And that just gives you more leverage.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. All right. I feel like I should do this. That's the whole point of this project, is to explore every possible option and really not just explore them again intellectually, but to explore them experientially and say, you know, if you, because that's where people get, right? Like people get to a point when they're struggling with their weight where they often say like, I've tried everything. And, you know, when clients come to me and say, I've tried everything, I go, really? You've tried everything? Like, really? You know? And then usually when you have that conversation, they go, well, not everything. You go, exactly. So, you know, so one option is, you know, that's persevere and keep trying, or better yet, just stop trying and just do it, right? Stop trying things and just do things. So for me, yeah, go ahead.
We both know that the word try implies failure, right? When
right.
When you're on stage and you're like, oh, remember, you don't say remember your name, you say try to remember your name. Of course they can't. So yeah, we don't try.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah. All right. So here's my last thing. Cause again, you know, I want this process to be real and you've spent a fair amount of time with me. We've spent time. I always feel safe with you based on what you know of me. If I was your client and we were going to do this, what would you say you think, like what's my core issue? What do you think my core issue is?
I would probably go back, and I think there's a link with safety and comfort. Just gut feeling of the food was like a consistent point of certainty and comfort. And you know, anytime you're stressed, you're going to always want to go back to that comfort.
Yeah.
But if we can show your brain that it was actually not comfort, it was pain, then.
Well, and that's the irony, right? Like I talked recently with Emma Romano, who specializes in she has this process called timeline reset. And she talked about the same thing. She said, of course, the irony is that, you know, you think it's safety, but then you're doing it to a point where it's going to kill you and you're not safe at all. Right. And I was like, yeah.
but again, like consciously, until those emotions get into the subconscious to change it, like you'll just know it forever and just watch yourself not change the behavior.
Yeah.
Like you're observing yourself, you know, with no control.
Yeah. All right, man. Hey, if people want to learn more about you and what you do, what's a good way for them to do that?
I'm on Spohn Trained everywhere. That's SPOHN, trained like a personal trainer. Spohn Trained, hashtag Spohn Trained. I have a podcast, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff. And I'm just getting ready to launch a couple courses at spohntrained.com. So it's I tie in a lot of body language to the stuff we're talking about and energy work into the body language. So it's unlike anything you've ever seen before.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. Hey, listen, if you want to really, if you found what Nicholas shared tonight interesting, definitely look him up. He's really outstanding. He's very good at what he does, and he's got a lot to offer. So follow up with him on social and learn more about him. And I'm sure at some point there's going to be a book coming out, probably at some point. Not right away, but right? Come on, you got a book idea in your head. Yeah.
It's up there, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Hey, thanks for being here with me, man. I appreciate your time. And we should talk. Maybe I really do feel, you know, I should make that. I'll make that commitment now. Like, I'll do it. If you want to do it, I'll do it with you. If you don't want to do it because of our personal relationship, you know, refer me to someone else that you have faith in, and I'll do it with someone else.
No, I'd love to. And maybe, I don't know if you want to wait till August, but we could do it in person. And
yeah, you know what? I've got so many things going on. Maybe that's what we can do. Maybe we can say I'll keep working with these other things that I'm working on right now. And then if I still feel like I need a little extra thing, then we can hook up a convention and we'll do it then. That's a good idea. All right. Very cool. I'm Paul Ramsey. This is another episode of The Fat Hypnotist. Keep coming back for more and learning more about this weight loss journey. And if you have questions or comments, you know, get in touch with us right here on the site and leave comments and interact with us. And we'd love to hear more from you about what you think about these interviews. So I'm Paul Ramsey, and for Nicholas Spohn, thanks so much for watching.